everyone. Welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host, Mark. We're doing gotta go fast kind of episode today. White Scars. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Joining me today, we got, what's your name this time? We got Christian Khan.
I look forward to slaughtering 1/10 of the world's population with you guys.
Nice. Okay, that's
spreading your DNA to like 25% of the population too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't. None of us want that. Though. Just imagine that kind of population of Christians running around. That might be the only time genocide's okay if it's that kind of. Might be the only. But anyways, hey, White Scars. You know, you can't make those kind of jokes too early without like this is a 40K podcast. It's grim dark. We get crazy, but hey, people have been wondering how do they get on our Discord. And I always tell people, you just click on the episode links down below. There's a link down there. But I guess that's too tough. So let me do it this way for you guys. You guys ready? Get your pen, paper, or browser.
You're just going to read HTTPS?
Yes, I am. You know, I live to serve. I want you on the Discord. So we have, it has to be https://discord.gg/2TN capital TF 4 capital R M 5 capital D. Look at that. Now we're hanging out on the Discord. It really wasn't that hard.
That cannot be easier to hand type that in listening to you than just clicking the link.
You would think, but here we are nonetheless. But it's done. It's over, and it'll never happen again because now everyone who listens to the show will now be on the Discord.
Excellent. Perfect. All right. And if you want to join the Golden Horde or the Imperial Tithe, you can join up on Patreon, get ad-free version of the show for $2.50 a month, or you can get the video version for $5. So go on ahead and subscribe.
Yeah, and if you are a patron, you can jump in on the live stream during the show when we record. We have a live chat going on, and then we also take call-in guests at the end of the show. And you can join me, of course, as every time, Whiskey and Warhammer. Today we're doing a little bit of whiskey. It has some vanilla caramel notes. Very nice.
Oh, nice.
Yes, as we discuss the White Scars. But yeah, if you want to jump in on that, make sure you jump in on the Patreon and you can get access to all that. It's super fun.
You should have poured yourself a nice glass of sake, Jordan.
I guess so. I don't know. I maybe I have thoughts on that, but I won't go into that now.
Or milk wine as they drink in Mongolia.
Yeah, that's more like what I was thinking. More
human blood, horse blood. Well, yeah, it's gonna be a fun episode of slaughter and mayhem and savagery. We're talking about the White Scars. In this episode, it's kind of the part 3. You know, we've done parts now. We did Jaghatai Khan, and we talked about his origins and the Great Crusade, and then the Horus Heresy and kind of what happened to him. And you know, doing episodes like that, you touch on White Scars a little bit, but now we'll dive more into them. So in this episode, we're going to be going through what their origins are, not their Primarch, which is pretty neat. And then them in the Great Crusade, which once again is pretty different than their Primarch, just timeline-wise. And then the Horus Heresy and the Great Scouring. We'll talk about their appearance and belief, gene seed, homeworld, how they recruit stuff, combat doctrine, martial tradition and cultures. That's one of the things I really like about the White Scars. I feel like they're very like heavy in the kind of the cultural traditions and like the not just like weird martial traditions either, where it's like go stand outside till you get frostbite. Like they're kind of like calligraphy or like raiding a village and burning down the houses in just the perfect way. You know, they're a little more sophisticated. We'll get into the organization, hierarchy, some special units, and finally, war gear. You want to hear about jet bikes? I'll tell you about jet bikes. I don't mind.
I hope you're featuring bolt guns in every Legion episode.
Yeah.
Read the exact same paragraph.
And all right, first it's going to take 15 minutes to talk about what an Astartes is. Then we got to do the gene seed. Then once we got that baseline in every episode.
Excellent. I can already feel the subscribers dropping away. All right, let's get into the White Scars in the 30K Legion era. Their history. The White Scars were born from the genetic material designed by the Emperor, but their legacy was shaped by the harsh environment of Chogoris, a planet where only the strongest survived. The tribes on this world were fierce and constantly at war with each other. The White Scars gene seed reflected these qualities: speed, agility, and an unyielding fighting spirit. Raised in the culture of constant battle, Jaghatai Khan, the Great Khan, emerged as the unifier of the tribes. His rise to power was marked by his ability to command respect, and from him, the White Scars would learn to fight, not only for survival, but for honor and loyalty. Jaghatai Khan's leadership style was shaped by his tribal upbringing. When the Emperor found him, he was a warrior of unparalleled skill, known for his speed and strategic brilliance. The Khan's bond with his warriors was not just one of command, but of mutual respect and trust. Unlike some of his brothers who ruled through fear, Jaghatai led by example, teaching his warriors the art of quick strikes and devastating precision. His deep connection with the White Scars made them a legion that fought with incredible unity and focus, each member trusting their leader completely as they rode into battle at his side. And yeah, just a quick recap reminder is that Jaghatai Khan made that their culture. Before that, they were very much scattered and like a bunch of different groups fighting across the galaxy, and he brought them together and really unified them. So that was something. Yeah.
They were sometimes described as like a savage horde too, with no being the fourth legion. I think they were always meant to be this fast kind of legion. If you go through kind of the order of angels, we've kind of done that. It builds upon each other. Okay, so if we got our siege guys, well, now what do we need? We need guys to respond fast. So I think that was kind of built in them anyways, just like kind of built in the Khan.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of fun that way.
Yep. During the Great Crusade, the White Scars quickly became known for their lightning-fast tactics. Jaghatai's preferred methods of warfare involved striking swiftly and decisively, overwhelming enemies before they could respond. Their mobility on the battlefield was unmatched, and they became the spearhead of the Emperor's forces. The White Scars traveled across vast distances with speed and precision, conquering worlds and bringing them into the Imperium. Under Jaghatai's leadership, the White Scars became symbols of the Emperor's will, an unstoppable force that would change the course of the galactic history. As the Horus Heresy began to unfold, the White Scars were initially hesitant, caught between loyalty to the Emperor and the bonds of the Brotherhood with their fellow Primarchs. Jaghatai Khan wrestled with the decision of which side to take, all while Horus's betrayal tore the galaxy apart. Though he was deeply conflicted, the Khan ultimately chose to fight for the Emperor. The moment came when the traitors threatened Chogoris, forcing the White Scars to pick a side in the war, and Jaghatai led them into battle with the same speed and fury that defined their tactics. After the heresy, the White Scars became relentless in their pursuit of traitors during the Great Scouring. They hunted down the remnants of Horus's forces, claiming worlds lost to the traitors and bringing them back to the Emperor's light. The Khan's leadership during this time was marked by vengeance, as his legion cut a path of destruction through Imperial territory, purging any trace of corruption. Though the White Scars were scarred by the heresy, they emerged as a force of retribution, and their pursuit of the traitors continued well beyond the fall of Horus.
Man, there's a couple just like super cool things that happen, or like that makes them so different. Like during the Great Crusade, man, they go 180 years or something. I forget the exact number, but a long time without finding their Primarch. So they're that leaderless thing. And then in the Horus Heresy, they are made up of a lot of people that are either close to Horus because they worked alongside them a lot, or close to Terran-born Marines. Since, they're so far into the Crusade at that point, there'd still be a lot of Terran-born Marines in that legion, or maybe not even Terran-born, but just however else they're recruiting, as we'll find out later. So just more likely to fall. So them in the Horus Heresy, it's like, oh shit, they did a lot, but also it was some internal battle too, which is pretty fun. We were talking about the Black Scars, kind of like a chaos version. So instead of white, you do black, and then you got the red kind of lightning on them for chaos White Scars.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, they seemed like the one legion that could have gone either way. They could have gone to chaos, or they could have stayed loyal to the Empire. Like if you just read about them, you probably, like some other legions, it's easier to tell, like, oh yeah, they're gonna go to chaos. But then like the White Scars, it seems like they could have gone either way. It's sort of a little bit ambiguous.
Yeah, like one of the fun words they use to describe them often is like savage or like barbaric, and usually that would be more of a chaotic nature. So
yeah, and I'm sure we'll get more into this too, but they're sort of like the other Primarchs look at them kind of with the side eye too, so there is like a reason for them to maybe be a bit Revan-kissed in their ideology, but we'll get into that here. We'll get into the origins and read more about where the Legion came from. So the 5th Legion, they were born in the shadow. Their earliest days, shrouded in blood and secrecy, lie forgotten in the annals of time. While the other legions formed their ranks in vast mass battle lines, the White Scars remained elusive, operating alone, cut off from the grandeur of the Unification Wars. They were not the tip of the spear, but the silent blade in the dark, cutting down the enemies of humanity before the Emperor's main armies could even arrive. Their legacy was not one of pomp, but of grim determination and survival in the harshest of conditions. Taken from the nomadic Thulian tribes, who had roamed the icy wastelands of old Earth in massive mechanized crawlers, the White Scars were more than just warriors. They were survivors. They were the children of a desolate world, forged in the bitter cold of the harshest terrain. Their blood ran with the resilience of those who had braved the worst of old night, carving out a life where others would have perished. This unyielding spirit was carried into the Legion, who thrived in isolation, their path set on a course of relentless determination, forever apart from the pomp and ceremony of their brothers. While the Thunder Warriors and other legions battled at the Emperor's side, the 5th Legion scouted ahead, prowling the wilderness of Earth for threats unseen. Their task was a solitary one, seeking out the warlords and demagogues, the twisted remnants of the Age of Strife. They hunted down those who had gone unnoticed, their strike a whisper in the dark. They were the Emperor's eyes and ears, silently eroding the power of enemies before the army's unification descended upon them. Their work was not glorious, nor was it rewarded, but it was vital. Without their sacrifices, the Emperor's victory would have been slower, harder, and much more costly. So yeah, definitely like one of the more underappreciated legions, and sort of looked over, I would think. And again, just goes to my point of maybe why they would be a little bitter and why you might think they would go to chaos, but just like headcanon, I guess.
In real life too, underappreciated. We were saying in a couple episodes back how very few people actually play them. So
But yeah,
well, it's funny because even
though.
we had a whole discussion.
Oh, did you already? Okay.
Well, even with Brody and Gerald, we talked about the same thing where it's like, what? We don't really know anyone who plays. Like, it seems like they are just not really played or known about. Now this, they got a lot of cool stuff. Now this area time frame, it's kind of interesting how so many during the Unification Wars.
Oh, you're freezing up there, Mark.
Found on Terra, is that 15 before they stop kind of being on the we'll find out. So that's kind of this kind of thought. So the Emperor's uniting Terra, and he comes across something interesting. In this case, he kind of came across the nomadic Thulian tribes, and I wonder if he kind of based the Primarch off of them, and then what would happen is eventually they would recruit from them, and he would inherit them, and all would be well and good as they go crusade out. And I wonder if that applies to all the Primarchs so far. Like, does Lionel Johnson have was there an area on Terra? I forget. It was like Britain when that area was kind of conquered. Then was that kind of founded in that? What are your thoughts on such a preamble?
Christian, I don't know.
You froze up at the beginning there. I didn't catch the first part of what you were saying, so I'm not sure.
Well, the order of finding Primarchs, whatever, like a built a genetic tendency of lust or something, is what Fuzz says. No, like kind of just when the Emperor is conquering Terra during the Unification Wars, he comes across a tribe and he's like, I really like this tribe. I'm kind of base this Primarch off them, and eventually this Primarch's going to leave this tribe. And as he kind of conquers more and more of Terra, he kind of comes up with like, okay, now here's my 5th Legion. These guys go do that. And they're kind of based off that. We see this pattern develop a lot in other legions so far.
Yeah. So, okay, I think using context clues, I think I know what you were asking there. The problem I think with that is that now you have a situation where Primarchs are landing on worlds whose cultures were intentional, if that makes sense. Where, because the question always like, well, what if this Primarch landed on this planet and so and whatever? Like, did the planet shape the Primarch, or did the Primarch like land with a purpose on the planet, right? Like, I'm just trying to think of a good example, like, Mortarion on a poison planet because poison, right?
Yeah.
But and my Legion was also happened to be like, there has to be the lineup of a lot of either intention, as in like predestination kind of thing, where the Legion, the Primarch, and the planet the Primarch landed on all happen to coincide, versus did these circumstances shape the attitudes. I think one good example that doesn't match up and is kind of the opposite is the Blood Angels, where, well, man, even they kind of mirror the planet of Baal, in that the original Blood Angels were very savage and bloodthirsty, and like Sanguinius shaped them into being beautiful and I don't know, lack of a better word, like more civilized. And I guess that kind of also follows Baal-ish. Baal still is pretty messed up.
I'm telling you, I'm seeing a pattern develop where it's
I know, I'm trying to resist it and it still keeps popping up. Yeah, either like it was all planned is what it comes down to, or it was just circumstance. And like if it's over coincidental, then it just like feels cheap. But I also don't like the idea that it's all premeditated and planned either. So yeah. I feel like it removes a lot of the active shaping of cultures and people.
Yeah.
At least for me anyways. But you're certainly not wrong. Obviously the authors are writing the Legion, the Primarch, and their Primarch's homeworld to kind of rhyme together anyways. But there's a point where it becomes like, okay, like if they didn't know ahead of time, does this make sense? Is it very coincidental? It's like, yeah.
My only real, like, once again, mad rambling thought about it is, we did the episode on the Dark King, and the Dark King, another aspect of that is probably when he got all the power at Moloch. That's kind of very similar to when he was on Horus's flag drunk. He just didn't drink as much on Moloch type situation. Yeah, he bargained a little bit and he made some tricks there, but either way, it's like, warp enhanced. So maybe the Dark King kind of, since it always exists in the warp, when all the Primarchs got flung through the warp, was kind of able to direct them to specific locations and specific orders. But man, when you get that far down the route, you start smelling crap because you're just so far in it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like that version of things, but there certainly is a lot of coincidence that needs to be explained, like Fuzz says. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, moving on to the Great Crusade. This early isolation bred a fierce scars. They were not part of a greater imperial forces, preferring instead to operate on their own terms. Their commanders were stubborn, often defiant of orders that came from outside their ranks, yet they were revered for their cunning and ability to endure. The Emperor saw something in them that others could not, a raw, untamed quality that suited the brutal nature of the wars to come. But this sense of to isolate them further from their brothers, as the White Scarves grew less and less willing to answer to anyone but the Emperor himself. The Whites fought a never-ending war on the fringes, carving their path in the darkness. They were often alone, their companies fractured and scattered across the galaxy. In this isolation, they honed their craft of the hit-and-run warfare. The galaxy outside of Terra became their battleground, and they struck like lightning, raiding and retreating before the enemy had time to react. Their losses were constant, but their spirit never broke. To ask for aid would have been an anathema, for the White Scars were born to endure, to fight against impossible odds. In their hearts, they knew they would survive, that only the victory mattered. In their hearts, they knew that survival was the only victory that mattered. But the arrival of the Primarch Khan was a spark that ignited their true potential, turning their stubborn survival into the fury of an unstoppable force. I like this kind of concept of this legion going around kind of commandless for, like I said, a long time. They were the 15th, Khan was the 15th Primarch discovered. So yeah, who do they answer to? They kind of often get lumped their legions and stuff, trying to command them and trying to kind of reign them. But they're free spirit, man. They're like the horses they used to, or they ride, or gonna ride.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's cool too that their fighting style kind of also matches, that like hit and run survivalist, not clearly focused, like you said, kind of like Wild Spirit, but then they get honed once the Primarch comes and he can tame that like wildness.
Yeah.
Almost like taming a horse. We're gonna get a lot of horse comparisons here. The jet bike is like the horse. The Legion is like the horse. All right. The Star Hunters into White Scars. The title of Master of the 5th Legion had no weight, no deep history at the time Jaghatai Khan took the reins. Horse puns. His legion scattered across the galaxy in 1,000 endless skirmishes, and it was an amalgamation of wandering warriors. Yet this chaos, this disarray, fit the Khan's character perfectly. Where others would see weakness, he saw an opportunity for strength. Jaghatai, like the winds of the homeworld of Chogoris, would forge something great from the broken remnants of his forces. His was a legion of wanderers, yes, but wanderers who were never far from their true purpose. His talents lay in uniting the scattered, seemingly fractured force, and it was a challenge he was eager to meet. His genius was not commanding an already formed army, but in shaping warriors into a singular, unstoppable storm. The great Khan was made for such moments. In the wilderness of Chogoris, Jaghatai had raised warriors from the harshest conditions, and so his first step in recreating the 5th Legion was simple: recruit from his own people, those who had once roamed the plains beside him. The Chogorian spirit, forged in battle and survival, was the fire he needed to rebuild. Those chosen for transformation were hardened, born of the same blood that flowed through the Khan's veins. Surgery and augmentation could make them space marines, but it was the unyielding spirit of the steppe tribes that would truly forge them into warriors of the White Scars. This legion would not be bound by mere genetic heritage. It would be a living testament to Chogoris itself. Yeah, and that's like a practice that most, if not all, Primarchs essentially do, is once the Legion discovers their Primarch and their Primarch's homeworld, the Primarch starts to elevate people from their home world. And then that's where you have this Legion-wide conflict between the Terran-born Marine. I guess I shouldn't say conflict, but tension between Terran-born Marines and Marines that Primarchs have elevated from their home worlds. Some places it's obvious that division is obviously a lot stronger, like we went over the Dark Angels. In Horus's Legion, there's a little bit of a divide, but it's not all black and white. but it is certainly a tension that exists amongst all the legions, and in the White Scars, it will become a dividing point. But the 5th Legion was not just a product of Cho'Garis, and so Jaghatai made his move. He issued a call to all the far-flung pioneer companies, the scattered warriors of his legion. It was not a mere request, but a demand, a proclamation that would echo across the stars. The message, delivered by astropaths and couriership, would take years to reach those still entrenched in war or stranded in far-off systems. The Khan summons would not be answered easily. This was no simple matter of regrouping, but a test of endurance, of loyalty. Many warriors would not come, their fates obscured by the endless battles they fought. But the Khan would wait. The stars themselves could not silence him. The gathering of the White Scars on Cho'Garis was not the arrival of a unified force. It was a meeting of strangers, warriors who had fought in separate wars under different banners. When they arrived, they brought with them the scars of countless battles, their unity only a distant hope. Jaghatai stood on the plains of the empty quarter, surveying the myriad heraldries and insignias that adorned his legion. These warriors, each with their own past, stood before him now as one army, not by blood alone, but through the shared trials of their ancestors. The Khans understood that unity was not something to be simply imposed. It had to be earned through hardship, through sacrifice, and in the heart of that desert, the White Scars were born, bound by blood and pain. Their loyalty to the Khan was sealed in fire. And so the blood flowed. The blooding, or ascension, was no simple rite. It was the moment when these warriors were bound to something greater than themselves. 50,000 men stood on the burning plains, each marking their flesh with their own hand. The scars they bore were not just symbols. They were the price of belonging. They were the echoes of their trials, the mark of their devotion. The ritual was raw and filtered by ceremony or pageantry. Just the clean cut of the blade and the promise of what it meant to be a white scar. Names were chosen, names that symbolized their transformation. These names were not just new identities, but promises to each other, to the Khan, to the very stars themselves. In the blood of these first warriors, the foundation of the White Scars was laid. I have a question, too, on the scarring ritual that they practice. Do we know what that looks like exactly? Like, I've always wondered that, even back whenever I looked at the old White Scars models, I always looked for, like, a scar or something that they all shared. Like, is it marked on their torso, their arm? Is it just something general like that they all do? Or is it all found in the same place? Like, do you know much about the scarification ritual that they practice?
From what I was reading, it was a hand one, but that might have just been this first original like blooding. Because yeah, it seems like in 40K there might be some more facial scarring or stuff, but I don't think it's not supposed to be like disfigurement.
No.
It's not even supposed to be like cool necessary. It's like super meaning. I almost envision it the same way the Tau do their Tau
Bonding
Taslavesa
ritual.
or whatever. Yeah.
I like how you know the Tau name for it.
I get the ladies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I always wondered if there was like a consistent symbol or mark that they all share, like an X on the chest or on the back or something. But yeah, I guess what you're saying, hands.
Yeah.
Kind of like branding or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this scene. Like, it's so cool. He waits there. I think he waits for like 10 years or something for all his guys to come across the galaxy so he can like unify them, bring them together. And this is just in the back end of the Great Crusade. And when I say that, it's not because of Horus Heresy happened. Like, the Great Crusade was basically over. And like, it wasn't halfway through. And then the Horus Heresy happened. So to have this moment so far into it, and now it like, okay, now we're really, this is the White Scars. Now everyone kind of has this like vibe. They feel this sense of purpose, this commitment. They all choose their names and like really get into it. Like they dive in, they join the cult.
Yeah. I'm hesitant to say that the Great Crusade was almost over, in that, like, yes, they would be coming up to the conclusion soon. But the reason the Great Crusade stopped was because of Horus.
Yeah.
They weren't like they didn't finish conquering the galaxy before Horus turned.
Sure. But would it have been another 50 years?
Sure, yeah. There wasn't much left for sure. Like
Yeah.
the bulk of the conquest of the galaxy was done. Like even territorially, but they hadn't finished conquering the galaxy, not yet.
Yeah, and we even learned a little bit too about the White Scars kind of first war zones and stuff, where they were empires that went around. They're like, okay, we don't need to do that 5-year campaign right now, or we don't need to try to tough that or crack that tough fortress right now. So the White Scars kind of get thrown into like these tougher end of the line baddies, you know.
Plain Jane in the comments says, as hard as it is to take the armor on and off, it makes you wonder where the best spot for their scar is. I think it would have been easier to do their faces. I think I naturally just assume it's their face, but I guess I actually don't know.
No, yeah. No, it's just like the models in art. Like some of them do have scars on their face, but not many, and it's not consistent. So it's, again, that's why I asked. Like, are they
Harry
all
Potter
the same?
scars on their forehead? Lightning bolt.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lightning bolt brand. It's actually on their butt cheek like a horse.
That would die.
I would also argue that probably like modern White Scars, like armoring up, and the Space Marines do get out of their armor periodically. They're not always living in their armor, so it wouldn't be crazy for them to not just do their face out of ease.
Yeah.
But
gauntlets are usually pretty easy to put on and off too, in most situations. Like when I put on snow suits, if we can compare snow suits to power armor, gloves are the last thing you put on.
Yeah. Fair comparison, I think. Jaghatai Khan did not only give them scars, he gave them purpose. The noble pursuits of Chogoris, hunting, calligraphy, storytelling, became their guiding principles. It was not enough to fight with ferocity. They were to live with discipline, to honor the past and wisdom it imparted. The great Khan understood that his legion was a strange mixture of practicality and mysticism, a blend that sat uncomfortably with the imperial truth that rejected religion. Yet Jaghatai was resolute in this path. He would not bend to the expectations of others, not even when confronted by his brothers like Guilliman and Lorgar, who questioned the traditions of the White Scars. But Khan's refusal to abandon his people's ways marked him as an outsider, even among his own legion. But Jaghatai knew that the spirit of Chogoris, the heart of the White Scars, could not be erased. It was in the blood of the legion, and it would drive them forward, no matter what the Imperium demanded.
Yeah, this is like, obviously it comes across almost as very religious, which is very anti-imperial, because that's all just superstition and nonsense. And that this sort of this borders on that. It's pushing up against, being superstitious and religious.
Yeah. Very shamanistic.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We've talked about how the Storm Seers, they kind of channel the warp through their planet, and founder or as a buffer, however they kind of manage it. But, they talk about the planet's spirit flowing through the White Scars and stuff and unifying them and giving them this purpose. And, Fenris has this very similar vibe in both the way it kind of like the people imbibe it, and it's like this pack. But like not all the legions have that. Like not all Ultramarines are like, they're all like for Ultramar, but they might be one from world 397, in the Ultramarine Empire. Yeah. It's not this like spirit of the world. And I love the kind of, every Primarch's home world is its own epic little world, a mini area that's so cool. I think I really like the cans the most, man.
All right, shall we get into the Horus Heresy and what happened with Jaghatai Khan or Jaghatai Khan? How do you guys say that? I read it Jaghatai, but
I read it as Jaghatai.
Jaghatai. Okay. All right. So their time in the Horus Heresies. What did they do during this period? The White Scars, after years of brutal warfare against the Orcs in the Chondak system, were caught in the storm of betrayal. Word of Horus's treachery and the massacre at the drop sites struck like a hammer. The Khan was far from Terra, deep in the heart of hostile territory, but he understood the gravity of the situation. Rogel Dorn's urgent call rang out, and Layman Russ, fresh with his own devastation at Prospero, offered his strength to the Khan. But Jaghatai knew the game being played. Horus had already anticipated their move, and he had sent the Alpha Legion to strike the Space Wolves at Urant. Russ, the Wolf King, had fought valiantly, but had been outnumbered and crushed by the scheming Alpha Legion. The White Scars, swift and cunning, had no time to waste. The Khan had a decision to make, and it was not one to be taken lightly. The fires of betrayal were already consuming the Imperium, and Jaghatai had to find the answers before it was too late. The Khan and his warriors broke from their campaign, tearing through the Alpha Legion blockade with the fury of a hurricane. The Chondak system was left in their wake as the White Scars embarked on a new mission to uncover the truth of what had happened, to find the source of the chaos and deceit. Their weapons clashed against the Alpha Legion's defenses, and soon they were in pursuit of answers beyond the stars. Jaghatai, driven by the need to understand what was transpiring in the heart of the Imperium, made the decision to strike out to Prospero. It was a choice born of necessity and urgency. He needed to see the aftermath of the Space Wolves' apocalyptic attack firsthand, to understand the true depths of the betrayal. When the White Scars arrived, Prospero was a hollow shell of its former glory. No sign of either side remained, only ghosts, echoes of the dead, lingering on the winds of war. Magnus's ethereal presence manifested before the Khan, a twisted shade of a brother lost to the warp. The whispers of sorcery and seduction filled the air, urging Jaghatai to turn his back on the Emperor, to choose a side in the coming war. But he was not so easily swayed. His blade moved with lethal precision, severing the phantom projection of Magnus before it could take root in his soul. His warriors, hardened and unwavering, found themselves on the verge of another battle, this time with Mortarion and his death guard. The air burned with a foul stench of decay as the two legions clashed in the skies above Prospero. The White Scars fought with the speed and savagery that defined them, cutting through the death guard like a blade through flesh. Meanwhile, beneath their feet, treachery brewed within their own ranks. There were those, led by Torgan Khan and Hasik Noyan Khan, who sought to betray their Khan and ally with Horus. A dangerous coup was underway, and the White Scars faced betrayal from within, even as they battled their enemies on the outside. The betrayal threatened to split the White Scars, but the Khan was no stranger to the weight of loyalty. The traitors, however many they were, could not shake the bond that held his legion together. Shiban Khan, a warrior who had stood beside Jaghatai for countless campaigns, led a boarding party onto the sword storm to put down the traitors. A brutal and bloody confrontation unfolded in the heart of their ship, but when the Khan arrived, the tide turned. Mortarion, ever calculating, withdrew his death guard, recognizing the White Scars' resolve. Yet the cost was high. Those who had fallen to the whisperings of Horus were condemned to death, forced to atone for their treachery through the ultimate sacrifice. The traitors were thrown into the Sagyar Mizan, suicide units designed for final act of redemption in the heat of battle. For the White Scars, the price of loyalty was steep, but the strength of the Legion remained unbroken.
Man, I just really love the traitor White Scars for some reason. To me, it seems like, the Khan got to choose his way. Now maybe every White Scar can choose his way. But if they broke their vow and their scar on with Jaghatai Khan, then that's not a good move. Then that's kind of a dick move. But yeah, I really like the Black Scars concept. Maybe some got away, fled warp, and now there's like a war band of them running around the galaxy in 40k times. Maybe there's some ancient jet bike tech that they still use. Probably not, though. Now it has wings.
Yeah, and in the like in it's also kind of consistent with their own lore too, that you would see some split off and become the Black Scars.
Yeah, like they're so fiercely independent. Each one like is just kind of
And they're also sort of isolated from the rest of the Imperium. Like they're very much on their own. So yeah, the Emperor, the Imperial truth and the light of the God Emperor isn't constantly shining upon them. So
they're prone to lose their path if they're constantly being bathed in the Emperor's holy light.
Yeah.
The thing, I think more legions this should have happened to. Like we obviously have the biggest Dark Angel feud there, and then the White Scars. But I do love the idea when loyalists turn traitor, not just loyalist legions, but like within the legion there's conflict. I love the idea of traitor Ultramarines and traitor Iron Hands, you know, traitor Imperial Fists. Like
now to be fair, they kind of wrote that away though in the horror, like particularly with like the Sons of Horus and the World Eaters, because they like killed all the ones who would have stayed loyal to the Emperor, basically. On, Istvan, right?
Yeah, but you have all this content dedicated to that side of it, but there's almost nothing on the reverse, other than for your prominent like Dark Angels and White Scars. I think are the two ones that really come to mind. But you don't hear much about traitor, you know, Imperial Fists or traitor Ultramarines. Like, God forbid.
Yeah, but would that be like in light of their lore? Would that be as likely to happen? Like, would you see?
It wouldn't be likely, and certainly it would skew.
Like the Imperial Fists and Ultramarines, like just strike me as like that would never happen.
I'm hesitant to use the word never with 40K. Is the thing.
Yeah,
like I always like to leave
corruptible
room
with 40K too. Like the demons are whispering.
Yeah. I don't know if I buy it, but
Ultramarines are pure.
Yeah. Okay. For the next 4 years, the White Scars are caught up in the vast, unyielding grip of the warp. Warp storms tore through the galaxy, cutting off any hope of safe passage to Terra. The traitor fleets had formed an iron blockade, trapping the White Scars far from their home. But Jaghatai would not be denied. The Khan, a master of speed and ferocity, ordered his legion to strike with precision of a scalpel, waging a relentless campaign of hit-and-run attacks. The White Scars harried the enemy, striking when least expecting, leaving nothing but wreckage in their wake. Yet, despite their relentless effort, the traitors continued their march towards Terra. The Scars had lost a fifth of their warriors, but they would not falter. With the Battle of the Kalium Gate came the death of Qin Jia, and the Khan realized that the time for patience had passed. It was no longer enough to wound the enemy. He would carve a path to back to Terra. The White Scars, unbroken, found the dark glass artifact, and the sacrificial death of Chief Storm Seer Targuti Yasugi. A portal to the webway was opened. It was through this final desperate act that Jaghatai Khan and the White Scars would break the blockade and finally make their way to the heart of the Imperium to face the truth of the war and its consequences. So they like kind of after the sort of rift within the White Scars, like Khan became like more loyal, almost like he was like desperate to get back to Terra and defend the Imperium, you know, like it almost like pushed him more into that side, even though he was like tempted by sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, certainly doubles down on the loyalty. I think it shows like, even though he may have questioned what he was gonna do, once he makes a decision, he goes all in, right? Like, doesn't make him like a waffler all around. It just means that when he is committed to a path, that's it. It's almost as if the question had never been asked.
Yeah. Then he gets to Terra, and the Battle of Terra happens. During the Siege of Terra, the White Scars were no mere reinforcements. They were a storm unleashed upon the traitors, swift and relentless, their fury cutting through the heart of the enemy's defenses. Together with the Blood Angels and the Imperial Fists, the Scars struck with surgical precision and hit-and-run assaults, each strike tearing at the fabric of the enemy's strength. When the traitors breached the inner palace, the White Scars did not hesitate. The Khan, his eyes set on the heart of the battle, knew that the fate of the Imperium hinged on the Lion's Gate spaceport. The Khan called upon his warriors and his might, pulling together the sky plate and assembling the 1st Terran Armored Division. Tank regiments from across Terra rumbled into position, while the jet bike defender riders of the White Scars roared above, cutting through the air like blades through flesh. With a thunderous roar, the White Scars descended upon the Colossi Gate, unleashing a torrent of destruction as the sky plate provided cover from above. The traitors, too sluggish to respond to the Scars' lightning strikes, were driven back from the spaceport, and the White Scars set to work fortifying their position. But this was not just a battle of men and machines. This was the personal reckoning between two brothers, bound by blood and betrayal. The Khan, his body battered and weary from the carnage, faced Mortarion in single battle. It was a duel that would determine the fate of this war, a battle of unrelenting will against the horror of decay. The Khan's blade slashed through the air, its edge carving into Mortarion's twisted form, banishing the Death Guard Primarch back to the warp. Yet the victory came at a cost. The Khan, near death from the brutal exchange, stood tall only by the will of his spirit. With Mortarion defeated and driven into the warp, the White Scars, under the leadership of Shibian Khan, Jangsi Khan, and Ganzorig Norien Khan, took charge of securing the Lion spaceport. The port, once a beacon of hope, was now a fortress of resistance. The Scars knew the war was not won yet, and they were not only defending this critical point, they were preparing for the final clash. The traitor armada still loomed above, and the White Scars knew the Imperium needed reinforcements. With their position secured, they set their eyes on the sky, ready to strike at the traitor fleet and ensure that the Ultra Dark Angels and Space Wolves could reach Terra to tip the balance in their favor. The White Scars, unwavering in their loyalty to the Emperor, were the spear that would pierce the traitor's heart. Nothing would stand in their way. I don't know if they ever pulled off this scene in the Horus Heresy books of the Khan surfing a rhino and beheading traitors as he does it.
Yeah, this particular piece of lore has existed since the olden times. The retaking of.
They must have.
Yeah, I haven't read the Siege of Terra, so I don't know. If someone in the chat can let us know. But yeah, the retaking of the Lion's Gate spaceport was always in the lore, and Jaghatai doing this great, daring cavalry
unexpected charge. Yeah.
Yeah.
All fair except successful.
Yeah. Definitely the part where he gets beaten half to death, though. That is new. I know that. But I remember, I think, a White Dwarf that even depicted it. Even before the Primarch models really started coming out, I vaguely remember someone playing something along the lines of either playing it or talking about the breakout move. And yeah, I think that's where that image of the Khan riding the rhino comes from. If my memory, which is prone to misremembering things, is accurate. But,
yeah. I also like during the Legion, they kind of make themselves they were never really accepted. Even they were kind of leaderless and purposeless, and they just never quite belonged. But in this battle, they really stepped up, man. And even they take this spaceport, but then they're holding out there, and they're as soon as the reinforcements arrive, we got to get up there and help out, so stuff can get down to the planet. And they probably knew at that point that would be the end of them. Okay, we go up so everyone can get down, type thing. But yeah, it's just they're here to do their kind of job and keep their word and
yeah, they definitely earned their place. It kind of reminds me of the Rohirrim charging Like same idea, right? Like this epic, desperate like attack.
Yeah. Just jet bikes. Fucking tight.
No, but it wasn't just jet bikes, right? Like they had tanks, they
Yeah,
had
yeah,
like
yeah.
just like this rumbling tidal wave. Just it's like Minas
Yeah.
Tirith is completely sieged. The Emperor's Palace is totally sieged. It looks so grim. Like just the bad guys have all the territory, and then all of a sudden, like they come storming out of the gate. Really, more so than Return of the King, it's kind of like when Aragorn and Theoden kind of charge out at the Hornburg.
It's
Like,
Helm's Deep. Oh my god.
yeah,
That's
like
so
it's like
funny. So we're
it's suicide. They knew
down
they were done. Yeah, but they do it
Yeah.
anyways, right? Like, yeah. All right, let's get into the Great Scouring. The White Scars, forever changed by the flames of the Horus Heresy, pursued vengeance with the relentless fury. Jaghatai Khan, though deeply scarred by their betrayal of his brothers, led his warriors for 70 Terran years in a ceaseless campaign to cleanse the Imperium of traitors. Worlds once loyal to the Emperor had fallen into the hands of the heretic, the alien, and the damned, and the White Scars were the storm that would scour them clean. With the power of the Emperor's wrath behind them, they struck fast, hit hard, and left nothing but ruin in their wake. No matter how great the suffering or how fierce the enemy, Jaghatai's fury never dulled. He brought terror to those who dared to defy the Emperor's will, wielding the White Scar's speed and precision like a spear through the heart of their enemies. The Yasan sector, the birthplace of the White Scars, was left in chaos after the rebellion. Chagoris, the Khan's homeworld, was scarred by the effects of war, its people shattered by the raids of the Jaghatai. It was in this broken, shattered landscape that Jaghatai Khan, seething with rage, swore vengeance. The Drukhari made the mistake of thinking that the Great Khan's people were weak, of thinking the White Scars had forgotten what it meant to be hunters. Jaghatai tore through the sector, bringing war to every dark corner, hunting down every last trace of the Xenos filth that dared to defile his people's legacy. With the legions reforged, he led his sons in battle after battle, cutting down heretics, mutants, and traitors alike. The White Scars were a storm of iron and flames, their fury unmatched. Yeah, I guess it's always important to remember that the other threats to the Imperium didn't go away during the Horus Heresy. If anything, they used it like they were like vultures circling a carcass, right? Like as the Imperium tears itself apart, you suddenly have an uptick in all kinds of Xenos raids and everything because this is their chance. The Imperium is weak. The White Scars are now like all fighting on Terra, so far away from Chagoris. It's like, oh, well, there's no one to defend this spot. So the Drukhari totally take advantage of that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that to the Khan's people.
Yeah. The Khan's wrath reached its apex when Jaghatai learned of the Codex Astartes. Revoke Guilliman's decree was but a formality. The White Scars, they had always fought as individual warriors, bound only by their loyalty to the Emperor. The Codex, however, would serve to formalize their ferocity, providing the White Scars with a structure that would make them more unpredictable, more dangerous. Jaghatai, ever the pragmatist, embraced the reforms with the same swift decision-making that had made him a legend. He trusted his sons, knowing that they were now free to fight as they saw fit, each chapter adapting to the needs of the moment. In the chaos of the Great Scouring, the White Scars carved their path of vengeance, unstoppable and unrelenting, as they hunted down those who had betrayed the Imperium. It was during this time of renewed conflict that the White Scars' war with the Drukhari reached its bloody climax. The Khan's pursuit of the Xenos was a singular obsession. He and his warriors struck the Drukhari where they least expected it, attacking them with such speed and brutality that the Xenos could not counter. It was on the world of Coruscant 5 that Jaghatai discovered the true depths of the malice, the Drukhari waiting in ambush, ready to unleash pain and suffering on his sons. But the Khan was undeterred. His warband with unmatched fury tore through the enemy lines, cutting them down like grass before a scythe. Even as his warriors fell and as they were captured by the Drukhari sadistic torturers, Jaghatai pressed on, his hatred of the Xenos driving him beyond the brink of reason. A couple of points I wanted to just bring up here. Going back a little bit to the Codex, it is odd. It was always odd that the White Scars were more Codex adherent than some of the other chapters. Like the Codex Astartes was controversial, to say the least, when Guilliman rolled it out. Some groups like the Imperial Fists were kind of like, we'll do it, but we don't like it. And they kind of come up with things like the Last Wall Protocol to kind of subvert it. Space Wolves are like, no, we're not doing that at all. You had a lot of different takes on it. And you would think with Jaghatai's background and like the culture of his legion, they probably wouldn't have gone for it. So that's kind of surprising that they embrace it.
Yeah, just with kind of their fight alone, kind of that independence, the natural savagery.
Yeah, like they're very much in league with the Space Wolves, like in seemingly in league with the Space Wolves through that. But I guess that also speaks to the ways that they're not like the Space Wolves, that people often will lump them together, but they're really not.
Yeah, like they're like, the Khan, he does like unity, and this is a good way to kind of unify the Astartes, especially after the heresy. I can see that being convincing, a very convincing aspect of the Codex.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like you said, it's not. It's. I would like to talk to him myself about this decision.
Yeah. So why did you decide to go all in with the Codex?
Yeah.
The other. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to change topics here.
No, that's fine.
Okay. The other interesting thing to note is this rivalry specifically between the White Scars and the Dark Eldar, the Drukhari. The Drukhari are also known for their speed and like fast and lightning raids. So it's like on like forces fighting each other, right?
Oh,
who is the fastest?
yeah.
Like it's high octane, like jet bikes and freaking skimmer bikes, whatever the Drukhari fly. What are their floating ships? Skimmers,
Raiders,
yeah, Ravagers. Like it's all, you can just picture it, just like super fast conflict. Yeah, I kind of like that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, for sure. Fuck yeah, no, that is very sweet.
It was during this time of renewed conflict that the White Scars' war with the Drukhari reached its bloody. Did I read that already?
Yeah, you're on the final 1.9.
Okay. Jaghatai's final battle against the Drukhari took place in the heart of the webway itself. The Khan, in pursuit of vengeance, crossed into the dark labyrinths of the Eldari dimension, bringing the full might of his legion to bear. The Drukhari Archon, ever the schemer, believed he had orchestrated a trap, but he underestimated the White Scar's single-minded focus. The Khan's fury tore through the portal and into the depths of the webway, where he chased the Archon like a hunter pursuing its prey. None can say exactly what happened next, but when the last of the White Scars crossed into the webway, the portal collapsed behind them. It was as if the very warp itself had closed, taking the Khan into its depths. For solar days, the White Scars scoured the battlefield, searching for signs of their lost leader. What they found instead was the empty portal and a burning desire for revenge. Jaghatai Khan was gone, but his sons remained, forever bound by the blood of the hunt, ever loyal, ever vigilant. Yeah, so this is the famed disappearance of Jaghatai Khan. Again, this comes from like old lore, where he chases the Dark Eldar into the webway and then vanishes. It's cool because it's like he's, again, what I was saying earlier about how it's all like high octane, like super fast. So you can kind of picture the Dark Eldar maybe not even intentionally capturing him, which we'll get into what actually happens to him. But like he's so freaking fast, they're trying to get away from him. So typically how Eldar raid is they come through their webway portals, attack, and they scurry on through their webways faster than the enemy can retaliate. That's how they typically do their warfare. But the Khan is just so fast, he actually caught up to them as they crossed into the webway, getting himself obviously trapped in the webway too. But like as that portal closes, usually they're like, "Oh yeah, we're safe."
And then they turn around.
Yeah, he's like, "They're still on our tail." Yeah.
Yeah, fucking cool. Just jumping back to that kind of discussion before, Fuzz says the Khan's choice to go against the Codex makes sense if you look at it as a combination of the unity he wants and the formalized smaller independent groups like they were before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not go against the Codex, to go with the Codex.
Yeah.
All right. Now we'll move beyond the lore and into the appearance. The White Scars are a storm given form. Their power armor a blur of white and crimson as they ride the winds of battle. Their warplate, a stark canvas of pale ceramite, is slashed through with jagged red lightning, marks of speed, ferocity, and the untamed storm within. Each bolt painted upon their armor echoes the ritual scars carved into their own flesh, binding them to the brotherhood and the traditions of Chogoris. To outsiders, these markings are cryptic, a language of warriors who define themselves not by words, but by the fury of the battlefield. Unlike the rigid order of the Codex Astartes, the White Scars carve their own path. Company and squad designations are not displayed on shoulder guards like lesser warriors, but instead marked on knees and greaves, always beneath, always grounded, like the foundation of a rider's stance. The Brotherhoods are not numbered but branded with bold red lightning, a testament to the unity of the storm. Squad markings etched upon the left knee signify the warrior's place in the ever-moving tempest that is a White Scars warband. Their helmets, like their blades, tell their own stories. Chogorian tribal markings adorn the helmets of those who ride to war, unreadable to all but the Brotherhood. A red helm, stark against the white armor, signals a sergeant's command, while a crimson helm with a skull stud and a pale stripe belongs to a veteran sergeant. His wisdom earned through countless battles. A Khan, a master of the hunt, wears a white helm, crowned with a winged skull, the symbol of a warrior who leads not from the rear, but in the heart of the storm. For the White Scars, every mark, every scar is a memory of war, a reminder that they are bound not by rigid law, but by the unbreakable bounds of brotherhood. They are the storm's edge, the knife in the wind, and their armor is not just protection. It is a testament to the warriors they have become. Now, maybe you guys can just fill me in here, like, very quickly, because I know you've talked about it already in previous episodes, but like, so they are not easy to paint.
Yeah, white typically is not. You have to either do so many layers to get that crispness, or
yeah, like to look like a plate, like a real plate white.
Yeah,
metal white.
And sometimes the paint quality is not great, so your paint gets like chalky or lumpy, and especially if you're doing so many coats. And if you paint it, try to paint it in the traditional style. But we discussed like different techniques you can use to get away or get around it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So finally, their badge. The White Scars emblem is a crimson thunderbolt slashing through a golden bar, a symbol of speed, fury, and the scars of the war each warrior bears. It is more than mere iconography. It is a mark of those who ride the storm. Among the Brotherhoods, only full initiates earn the right to bear the complete sigil. Scout Marines, still unleashed by the tempest of battle, may wear the thunderbolt, but without the golden bar, a reminder that they have yet to carve their legacy into the wind. Only when they prove themselves in the hunt, when their flesh and souls are marked by the trials of war, do they wear the full emblem of the Stormborn.
Cool. Beliefs. The White Scars are warriors of the storm. Swift as the lightning they bear upon their enemy, untamed as the wild-stepped winds of Chogoros. No god, but the great uniter, a conqueror who shaped the scattered tribes of humanity into a single mighty emperor. They do not bow to priests or empty rituals. Their faith is in the hunt, in the clash of blades, in the freedom of open battlefield. One day they believe the emperor will rise from the golden throne, and when that day comes, the Khan will return from the void to ride at his side, leading his sons in the new great crusade. The lightning bolt they wear upon their is more than a symbol. It is the essence of their warfare, striking hard, striking fast, and vanishing before the enemy can react. It is also the mark of the storm itself, a reminder of the raw power wielded by the storm seers, the psychers who command the elements and whisper to the spirits of the wind and land. The White Scars believe that as long as these forces heed the calls of the storm seers, they will never falter, never break, never be bound by chains of hesitation or doubt. Every White Scar carries his own storm within him. When a warrior is fully accepted into the Brotherhood, he receives his honor scar, a long ritual cut across his face, marking him as the son of the Khan. There's no mere decoration, but a bond of blood, a scar that ties him to his brothers and his ancestors. To wear it is to embrace the eternal hunt, the endless ride across the scars, the unshakable belief that motion is life, and that only in movement does a warrior find purpose.
Yeah, so kind of going back to that question of where they scar themselves, they're saying it's on the face. While the podcast was going on, I was trying to dig up pictures of white scars, like actual GW art. A lot of them do have scarification on their face, but they're not done in any kind of pattern that you would recognize necessarily as a ritual scar. Like, especially with Space Marines, they're always covered in scars. So it's like, did they earn that in combat, or was that like the ritual scar? I can't. Certainly, a lot of them have a scar or scars on their face, but I don't know that they all do, or at least they're not all evident. Which, maybe, to be fair, with some models, it might be too small to really depict. But yeah, and that's why I was never really sure, like, where they place these scars, because it's very easy to see a Space Marine with his face all scarred up and be like, yeah, it's just earned them in combat.
Sure.
Yeah.
But death too must be faced as a warrior. The White Scars shun the cold prison of the dreadnought, refusing to entomb their fallens in iron and wire. To be trapped in a state unable to feel the wind, unable to ride the storm, is a fate worse than death. A true son of Horus dies with his blade in hand and his soul unchained, set free to gallop across the endless plains of the afterlife. They are the riders of the storm, the blade in the tempest, the wind that cannot be caught. They strike, they vanish, they ride ever on, knowing that one day the hunt will end and the can. Yeah. I like all this imagery. I just keep picturing, like, a great step and the lightning flashes that light up the whole sky, and just it's all encompassing, and the noise that follows, Yeah, it's fun imagery.
Yeah.
Seeing jet bikes flash across this lightning streak sky. Oh yeah.
I know, especially during the Heresy, they ride a lot of jet bikes, but my mind always goes to their 40K version with just traditional motorcycles. I don't know. They feel more grounded, more. Of course, jet bikes are faster, but I'm just saying that's my mind defaults. Like, it's more horse-like.
Yeah.
Great planes and just these, like, hogs just roaring down the steps.
Oh, just me and my big old titty on the back, big old titty, big lady. There's a lot of South Park memes in the Discord today of bikers and stuff for this episode. Oh man!
All right, let's get into their gene seed. The gene seed of the White Scars was once as pure as the lightning that marks their armor, stable, unbroken, without flaw. But when the warriors of Chogoris were forged into the Legion, something changed. The fire of the steppe, the unyielding spirit of the nomad, bled into their very essence. What emerged was a breed of Astartes unlike any other. Fierce, untamed warriors who rode the storm rather than trying to master it. Their hunger for battle, their need for speed, their refusal to be caged, these were not mutations of the flesh, but of the soul. Yet even among the brotherhood of the scars of old blood remain. The steppe breed warrior... Yet even among the brotherhood, the scars of old blood remain. The steppe breeds warriors, and warriors have feuds. It is said that the White Scars are united in the hunt, bound together by the honor scar that each brother bears, but the truth is not so simple. In the heat of war, when the thrill of battle runs hot, old grudges can awaken, like embers stirred to the flame. A Chogorian never forgets an enemy, even if that enemy wears the same storm-marked armor. Yeah, so some Space Marine chapters, their gene seed, some carry flaws, some are a little more stable. The White Scars are definitely more on the stable end. However, this speaks to, like, not mutations in the gene seed per se, but their character, their attitudes, their culture, their, for lack of a better word, their souls kind of take on this Chogorian spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it even bleeds into like blood feuds, between groups, which kind of speaks to that also separation that they came from, right? Like, even though yes, they're all united, they're all White Scars, they still had tribal warfare, especially those that are recruited from Cho'Garis. My family killed your family like 1,000 years ago or whatever, and those wounds can still resurface. The Khan. The Khan Stormseers preach unity, speaking of the Brotherhood as one, a great hunting pack that rides as the wind commands. But the storm does not move as one. It rages, it shifts, it strikes where it wills. The White Scars accept this, for the fight against one's nature is to shackle the spirit. So they ride swift and unbound, each warrior a tempest of his own, yet all drawn by the same call, the same hunger, and the same endless storm.
Yeah, very cool. Do you remember like the Fantasy Flight games of Death Watch? They had the Gene Seed and they had some very cool like pros and cons for it. But for the White Scars, it was like as they kind of get more corruption, they get more and more savage. So the first one, it's like, oh, in the heat of battle, maybe they're gonna run to their enemy more often than they should. And then as it progresses, it's like, okay, now they're yelling at their allies, and then it progresses a little more, turning them more and more savage. It's kind of a fun way to do it.
Yeah.
Just like this feral kind of savagery built into the Gene Seed.
Does it ever go so far that they would even attack their brothers? Or is that too far?
I could look it up real quick and we could come back to it. Maybe after Homeworld, I have an answer.
All right, let's get into their homeworld. Cho'Garis, wild, unbroken, eternal, a world of endless steppes, where the wind howls like a hunting beast and the sky stretches wider than the reach of any empire. Once Jaghatai Khan forced a mighty dominion from these warring tribes. But when he left to ride the stars, his conquest unraveled. The tribes returned to their feuds, their endless wars beneath the open sky. Some say this was the great Khan's will, that only in the forge of conflict could the next generation of warriors be tempered. And so the White Scars never lack for blooded recruits. For Cho'Garis never rests, never softens. At the heart of this world stands Quan Zhao, a city that is not a city, a fortress, a monument, a relic of war and empire. It alone remains of the Kagan's conquest, its marble halls and towering walls housing the might of the White Scars. Here, trophies from the 1,000 battlefields hang heavy in the feasting halls, and the valley leading to its gates is lined with the skulls of those who dared challenge the sons of Jaghatai. High above, the Stormseers gather in their lightning-racked spires, reading the winds of fate and speaking in the tongues of thunder. The Khan's warriors do not linger here for long. They were not meant for walls and stone. The sons of Cho'Garis live as they have for generations, riding with the herds, following the seasons, and waging their eternal wars. When the White Scars descend to the steppes, it is not as rulers, but as hunters. Once a decade, they watch the young warriors clash, seeking those with the speed and hunger, the fire of the storm. Some come of their own will, braving the sacred pilgrimage into the mountains, where only the worthy return. To be chosen is to leave behind one war for another, to trade the steppe for the stars, the bow for the bolter, the gallop for the charge of a jet bike screaming through the void. Yet the White Scars are never truly separate from their world. Even across distant battlefields, they carry the steppe in their blood, the scent of the earth, the shifting winds, the language of the terrain. These are second nature, turning every battlefield into a hunting ground. They are the storm given form, striking with the speed of the gale, vanishing before the enemy can react. But in the maze of hive cities, in the choking grip of starships and space stations, they grow restless. They long for open ground, for the sky above them and the wind at their backs. Yet even here, caged by steel and stone, they fight as the storm fights, wild, swift, and without mercy. Okay, we get it. Mongolia. Or yeah, I digress.
Yeah. That Primarch's curse I was talking about is called the Trigornian Savagery. And stage 1 is a moment of unrestrained. So basically, slip in battle, snap. It's a role playing game, so like the rule is loose, and you're supposed. It's like this is made to encourage you to role play, so it doesn't necessarily have rules that affect it. It's more for character. So the second one is suppressed rage. So now all of a sudden you change your character into being like always angry and almost like manageable. So it's kind of, as you get more corrupt, you just can't be talked to anymore without like being yelled at.
Oh, that's it? I thought it was gonna be like 10 different layers of corruption or something.
No, they only had a couple. I think some other ones have more, depending on like, these are gene seed flaws. So depending on the chapter and how many actual gene seed flaws they have, where the white scars are known for being pretty pure and stuff. So
yeah, at least again in the physical. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, a couple more would be fun. Where they're just lashing out at people. But like I said, that's not official canon, and that's kind of up to the role player to decide what to do with that pent up rage. What do we do with that pent up rage every day when we wake up? Well, we try to be productive.
Some of us
Cool.
drink, some of us do illicit substances.
Yeah.
Everyone copes differently.
Yeah. Recruitment. The White Scars were born in the crucible of Terra's unification, but they were never truly of it. The first of the 5th Legion, the so-called Star Hunter, corner of old Earth. Some with skin dark as burned wood, others pale as the war plate. They were warriors, but not yet. They were warriors, but not. The path to ascension was brutal. Forged in the training halls of Mamdo, where only the strongest survived the trials that made them parties. Those who endured were shipped to Luna, their flesh reforged, their minds remaged. They were assigned not by choice, but by need, scattered to be the great hosts of the nascent Imperium. Yet for those bound by the 5th, their transformation was only beginning. Jaghatai Khan changed everything. When the Stormseeker was found on Tragaris, the Legion cast off its name and embraced the ways of the steppe. But the new path was no easy road for the Terrans, who had once called themselves the White Scars. They were thrust into a world of endless plains, the traditions and tongues alien to them. They were trained under the eyes of Chagorian masters, learned the hunt, the raid, the feigned retreat. They abandoned Imperial Gothic, twisting their tongues around Korkchin, a language built for war cries and poetry alike. It was a language of movement, of shifting meanings. Like the White Scars themselves, those who failed to learn were discarded. Those who endured became something new. Warriors not of Terra, not of Tragaris, but of the Ordiu, the great brotherhood of the Khan.
I was you were reading language built for war cries, and I heard war crimes. That's like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's not Canadian English, Ben.
Yeah.
The other legions muttered about them. Too wild, too proud, too efficient, too different. They scoffed at the White Scars, fixated on speed and discrepancy, on the art of the killing blow struck in motion. To them, war was a thing of unyielding force, of towering walls and grinding sieges. The 5th Legion laughed in their faces and rode past them, already seeing the next battle before the last had ended. To stand still was to die, to hold fast was to be trapped. The Khan's son fought like the winds, a force that could never be caught, never be pinned down. When the aspirant was finally deemed worthy of joining the Legion in his full, his past was stripped from him, his name, his history gone. In its place, a new name, one drawn from the old sagas of Korgoros, from the legend of the Talskar and the epics of the Korchin raiders. He did not belong to Terra nor to Korgaris, but to the 5th, to the thundering charge and the howl of the wind. His brothers would know him not where he was born, but for how he rode, how he killed, and how he lived the way of the Khan. And so they became the White Scars, not merely a legion, but a storm, and unleashed across the battlefields of the Great Crusade and beyond. The Imperium called them savage. They called themselves free. Another thing I never really mentioned, but people were talking on the Discord, is how much fun these guys like to have. Like, they like to laugh and stuff. Even in battle, like, they find enjoyment of it. Like, it's this fulfillment of their purpose, and they're laughing like ferally, like uncontrollably almost during battle.
You know, I actually have read about this, about the White Scars, and it's almost a little psychotic, actually, how much they like laugh. Now, you could interpret it two ways. You could interpret it almost maybe like Malal-ish, that maybe there's a little bit of that influence, or you could interpret it as they just like, they have just this deep love and joy in their craft, right? And it's like, I don't know, just part of their culture, I guess. But yeah, there's a few ways you could interpret that. The laugh.
Yeah, I think it speaks to their warrior culture. Like, they take joy in combat. I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast, but like in modern society, it's kind of hard for us to picture what warrior cultures are like or were like. Like, you go into the past, and like cultural sensitivities have changed drastically, you know, not just between cultures, but over time as well. And the way some cultures view combat, like true warrior societies, like, is very different than modern sensibilities, let's say. So yeah, like that yearning for, or celebration of, or enjoyment in combat is something that I think has become very alien to us. And on that note, let's get into combat doctrine. That's a smooth segue. The White Scars are not mere warriors. They are the storm-given form, the unchained fury of the steppes made manifest in the void of war. Their doctrines, forged in the crucible of 10,000 years of battle, still echo the ancient ways of the Chikorian nomads. Swift as a thunderclap and relentless as a howling wind, they strike not as berserkers, but as hunters, each blade, each bolt a predator's fang, each charge a spear cast with perfect lethal precision. They do not simply wage war, they race through it, tearing through their foes before the enemy even knows they are under attack. Every strike is measured, every assault honed to razor's edge to perfection. The White Scars do not blunder into battle, but map it like a master huntsman stalking prey. They scout the battlefield with the keen eyes of the steppes, planning contingencies with cold efficiency of veterans killers. When the moment comes, they fall upon the enemy in a blinding storm of speed and fury, leaving only shattered lines and broken bodies in their wake. It was this swiftness, this calculated ferocity that carried them through the Siege of Terra and across the uncounted battlefields of the Great Crusade, from the choking jungles of lost worlds to the void duels of the deep black. The brotherhoods of the White Scars were war hosts of motion, engines of destruction, unhindered by the heavy, plodding advance of lesser warriors. They rode to battle upon growling jet bikes, their scimitar and shamshir patterns darting through the enemy's ranks like falcons, stooping for the kill. Squadrons of land speeders howled over the blood-soaked ground, raking the enemy positions with fire before vanishing beyond the reach. Even their artillery, those hammering gods of war, were not bound to the slow crawl of siegecraft. Instead, their batteries moved like specters, striking and fading before retaliation could even be mustered. Among their warbirds, none was more honored than the Skyfire, a thunderhawk older than the Heresy itself. For 62 long years, it had carried the warriors of the Brotherhood of the Solar Flame into the inferno of war, its hull bearing the names of the fallen, a promise of vengeance, a charm of protection. To the White Scars, these gunships were more than mere machines. They were companions of war, armored shrines bearing the spirits of those who had died, screaming the Khan's name. When the Horus Heresy ignited, the stars in fire and ruin, the White Scars embraced the newer Thunderhawk gunships with unflinching enthusiasm, abandoning the vast, cumbersome Stormbirds for craft that could match their relentless speed. By the Chondak's campaign, whole brotherhoods rode to war in the bellies of these beasts, their hulls marked with the honors of thousands of battles. Each ship was legend, its machine spirit as fierce and unbound as the warriors it carried, its name whispered with the same reverence as the greatest of the Legion's heroes. For the White Scars, war was not a march, it was a hunt, a chase, a storm that never ceased. Yeah. Obviously, it makes sense that they're into anything fast, so that includes like flying vehicles as well.
Yeah.
Honor for Thunderhawks and things. Just kind of skipping ahead, Mark. Do we talk about the birds? Like,
I talk a little bit about cyber eagles at the very end and kind of the
Okay.
cultural significance of them. So maybe
okay,
that.
okay. I'll save it for then. I just was going to touch on it now since we're talking about Thunderbirds and Thunderhawks. So, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They're fast. They like things with engines and that go fast. They're the speed freaks of the Space Marines.
All right, shall we get into martial traditions? The White Scars culture is forged in the image of the Jagoran steppes, where survival is not just a matter of strength, but of wit, speed, and the deep bonds formed in the crucible of war. Their society is rooted in a warrior code that values freedom, loyalty, and honor above all. Their bond as brothers is unshakable, but it is their unrelenting spirit in battle that defines them. The Fifth Legion, in the Fifth Legion, every brother is both part of something greater and an individual warrior with his own name, his own destiny, and his own place within the Legion's savage hierarchy. From the moment an aspirant joins their ranks, he is not merely a soldier, he is part of a blood-bonded family, bound to the Khan's will, but with the autonomy to ride his own path. Kind of interesting, like if you're actually gaming too, or like doing an RPG or something that gives you like a lot more room to write lore even for individual units than maybe other chapters would give you. So it's just sort of interesting thing. Martial traditions within the White Scars are as much about survival and legacy as they are about companionship. The concept of marriage, as understood in the Imperium, is foreign to the White Scars. Instead, their bonds are forged through the act of blood pairing, a ritual that ties two warriors together for a shared purpose, often for life. These blood pairs, known as Ordu, represent more than just a partnership. They are the melding of souls and weapons. When two warriors swear this bond, it is a solemn vow, not only to each other, but to the Khan himself. They fight side by side in the most dangerous of missions, sharing victories and defeats alike, and their connection strengthens with every battle fought and every foe vanquished. The customs surrounding blood pairing are simple but profound. It is not an act of romance, but a recognition of trust and shared purpose. Each pairing is considered sacred, built on the idea that together the two warriors are more than the sum of their parts. Their bonds are tested constantly in the heat of battle, where every action taken together becomes a matter of life and death. In these moments, the White Scars are not just comrades, they are part of the same beast, driven by the same bloodlust, pushing each other to fight harder, ride faster, and strike with greater precision. Through this, they achieve a unity that is unshakable, built upon mutual respect and unyielding loyalty. While the White Scars bonds are paramount, they are not without a sense of personal freedom. The Khan's sons are not shackled by rigid societal norms or hierarchy. Instead, they embrace their individuality within the framework of their legion's purpose. Their martial traditions allow them to choose their companions, their paths, and their names, all of which are drawn from the legendary history of Chogoris. Their culture, while fiercely loyal, is one that celebrates the ability to carve one's own destiny. much like the riders of the steppes who roam the endless plains in search of glory. At the heart of the White Scars marital culture, at the heart of the White Scars marital culture, it's the belief that their connection to their ordu, and by extension to their legion, transcends the bonds of kinship. They are not simply soldiers, they are living legends. Each pair, each warrior, an embodiment of of the unbreakable spirit of Chogoris. Their marriages are not about domesticity, but about survival, war, and legacy. Every blood pairing is a new chapter of the epic tale of the White Scars, a testament to the strength of their bond and the ferocity of their unrelenting pursuit of victory. To them, this is the true essence of family, one bound not by bloodlines, but by fire. You know, I think if I was ever to start a Space Marine army, I just might do the White Scars.
Merlin's miniatures. Use the promo code Lorehammer. Yeah, man, they're fucking tight. Like even just this little bit. Oftentimes we talk about the salamanders and how close they are to their people, but then you read about this blood pairing and the marriages, and the whole reason is to try to make these Astartes super soldiers before you even have a chance to make them.
Yeah, but you know, like I even like their culture because it's just this like perfect balance of, yes, they're loyal to the Empire, and they will die for the Empire, right, and the Imperium, but at the same time they are their own identity. They are not entirely defined by the Emperor and their service to the Imperium, right? Like they still have like their own culture and their own traditions, which like I kind of love. And I don't know, to me it just feels like me. That's like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah. It's nice too when like these guys, you close your eyes and you just get that such a strong, clear visual of and how things would operate, and yeah,
Totally.
We'll move to the organization. The White Scars are a force born from the steppes of Chogoris, where the heartbeat of society is found in the tribe. When a young warrior rises from the fractured tribes, loyalty to family and is replaced by a singular devotion and the emperor. The bonds of blood become the bonds of war, and these fierce sons of Jaghatai are welded into squads that transcend tribal lines. Each squad forms a brotherhood, a deadly unit of warriors united in purpose of a storm across the galaxy. These brotherhoods are not bound by conventional military structure, but by a fierce sense of camaraderie and purpose. Led by the Khan, their version of a company captain, the White Scars maintain a chaotic yet effective structure reflecting the ancient nomadic roots of their culture. The Khans are commanders with the weight of their entire brotherhood on their shoulders, driven by the same primal instincts that once saw their Primarch unite the steppes. Each brotherhood carries a name and echoes and they come from. Brotherhood of the Hawk, Brotherhood of the Spear, titles that inspire fear and respect in equal measure. At the height of the Great Crusade, the White Scars did not conform to the rigid designations of the Imperial military hierarchy. Their brothers were not assigned to numbered companies, but instead identified by their tribe's fierce identity. Even in the grim future of the 31st millennium, the White Scars still bear their names, keeping alive the connection to the cultural heritage. The Brotherhood of the Moon and the 64th Company represents a blend of the old ways and the new, as the Terran-born warriors integrate with Chogorian traditions, blending the unbridled might of the White Scars' ancestral power and the organized precision of the Astartes. True to their roots, the White Scars place a premium on speed and mobility over the slow grind of heavy artillery. Their leaders dominate the order of battle, carving through the battlefield like lightning. Heavy weapons are reserved for few, as the need for speed is paramount. Stripped down tanks, lean and swift, follow in their wake, designed not for defense of ground, but for rapid strikes and unstoppable momentum of lightning fast assault. The White Scars strike hard and fast, leaving nothing but destruction and the echo of their passing. Shoo! Dreadnoughts, relics of an ancient age, are a rare sight among the White Scars, and for good reason. The terrifying confinement of the Dreadnought sarcophagus is an anathema to the nomadic spirit of the White Scars. The very idea of being locked in a mental coffin for eternity, far from the endless plains of Chagorus, evokes a primal horror in their hearts. The freedom of the open skies, the endless plains, the true home of the White Scars, and the thought of being bound to a life of steel and suffocating closeness is a fate they cannot bear. For them, to live is to move, to fight, to roam, forever unbound, forever free.
Yeah, it is cool, like just how they're very distinct from all the other chapters, even in like how they fight and how they organize. Like it's all just optimized for speed, efficiency, getting the job done really quickly. And yeah, it even like the whole reason you think about, like in the wider context, like sort of on a meta sense, like the whole reason that they are isolated from all the other Space Marine chapters and they're never doing missions with them is because that would just like probably bog them down in the way that they operate. And like they kind of have to do that, So I don't know. The more I read about this, the more I'm like, these guys are actually pretty sweet.
That is a fun thought that they look at the other legions. It's just like, yeah, like you guys literally just don't have the gear to keep. Our tanks are stripped down and better than you, like for this purpose. There was a little bit that I think kind of lost tactically, where when Khan first came on the scene on his home planet, there's scenes of him conquering the planet, and arrows would fly from the sky, and the arrows would never stop falling. And even when the charge happened, the only time they would stop is like as the horses passed through, and then all the arrows would fly again. And it would have been cool to kind of see that transferred it a little bit into 40K with bolters and stuff, where they're much as possible. It's not just about being fast. Like you want to hold people in place. You want to make your enemy immobile. So now like your speed is like twice as effective.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Christian, you want to get into the hierarchy?
The White Scars are led by a fierce council of the chapter's finest warriors, with each individual chosen for their unique talents. At the apex stands the Great Khan, the ultimate commander of their wrath, currently Jubal, who rules from the fortress of Kwanzao. The Khans of the Brotherhoods gather for their Kurultai, where they convene to receive orders, and where the voice of the storm, the fierce Jaghorin, guides their spirits. The Apothecarion, led by the grim chief apothecary Algohole, is vital in maintaining the chapter's strength and gene seed, safeguarding the White Scar's future. Together, these warriors form a ruthless hierarchy, uniting in unwavering loyalty to their Khan and to the chapter. The Great Khan's inner circle is made up of the Keshig, a bodyguard of legendary warriors who serve as the protectors and advisors. Each member of this elite force has proven their prowess 1,000 times over in battle. Their armor is a testament to their mastery. When the Khans gather, the Storm Seers, the mystical librarians of the White Scars, hold a unique position of authority. They dwell in the lightning-wreathed tower of Kwanzao, guiding the fate of the chapter and determining the next Great Khan through ancient and brutal trials. When Kublai Khan fell, 4 warriors faced their terrifying tests. Only Jubal emerged from the Valley of the Khans, earning the mantle of the Great Khan after surviving the Storm Seer's cruel trials.
Cool, yeah. Spirited. There isn't that much in terms of the hierarchy, but at the same time, they have quite a few things, but it's all called Khan at the same time. So it's kind of like, well, whatever.
It can get a little bit confusing.
Yeah, I do like it though. Like honestly, I'm looking. We're gonna jump into all the named special units and stuff, but a lot of them are just leadership positions. The only one that's really not a leadership position is the Keshig, and keep you up to them when we talk about them in a second. But let's start with the Kanagan. The Kanagan, the Khan of Khans, is more than a title. It is the soul of the White Scars, fury and freedom. The Khan is the master of endless steppes, commands the respect of all who ride with them. He is the wind that howls across the vast plains, the storm that sweeps across the stars. His will is law, his destiny tied to the fate of the Imperium. But no chains can bind him. He is a force of nature, untamed, unyielding. And then we got the Noyan Khan, and I thought Noyan was somebody's like middle name. But no, it's part of a title, actually. So Noyan Khans were the architects of war. They commanded elite orders, vast hordes of brotherhoods bound by blood and brotherhood. These Khans answered only to the Kanagan himself, granted the autonomy to carve their own paths through the galaxy. They rode with the speed and fury, their tactics as unpredictable as the winds of Horus. Their name was spoken with awe, for to challenge a Noyan Khan was to challenge the very essence of war itself. Another Khan, the final Khan, thank God, is the Great Khan. And in the 31st millennium, the title of Great Khan is reserved for those who command the White Scars in the Primarch's name. Chosen through brutal trials overseen by the Storm Seers, the Great Khan is the embodiment of the White Scars' relentless spirit. He is the leader of sin, tested by fire and blood, and carries an unbroken will of Jaghatai Khan into battle. His reign is one of speed, honor, and an unquenchable thirst for victory. And this title would have came around as soon as the Khan went missing. So, it was kind of scouring era technically, but not so much really.
And you thought you were done with the Khans, but I have one more Khan for you.
The Khan, enough.
A Khan is not just a commander. They are the heart of the White Scars Brotherhoods. Every Khan is a force of nature, chosen through the trials of strength, mind, and spirit. They lead with the speed of lightning and the precision of a blade. To be a Khan is to be a living embodiment of the White Scars' ideals, relentless, fearless, and driven by an unshakable bond with their warriors. Is that probably like a captain equivalent?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Master of the Hunt. The Master of the Hunt is the White Scars' fiercest warrior, tasked with tracking and bringing down those few who have escaped the Khan's vengeance. No matter how long it takes, the prey will fall. The Master of the Hunt, Corsaro Khan, is a 51st to bear this title, and his skill is unparalleled. With Moondraken and Moonfang, he leaves a trail of death, each victory a testament to the unforgiving pursuit of justice. I was also going through kind of some of their formations during the Heresy, and a lot of them are related to sky, like dawn, like moon, like sky elements play a big role in kind of the naming scheme.
Like star sky elements more so
Yeah.
than or astral, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keshig. The Keshig are the elite of the elite, a living phalanx of warriors forged from the might of the White Scars. Terminators in bone white armor, they are an unstoppable force, defenders of the Kagan and his commanders. When they march, the ground shakes and the enemy trembles. The Keshig are not just bodyguards; they are the embodiment of death itself, an indomitable wall of fury that crushes all who dare threaten the Khan.
All right, shall we get into the Storm Seers? They are more than just seers. They are the spiritual keepers of the White Scars' power, wielding mystic forces that echo the shamanistic traditions of Chogoris. These warrior mystics commune with the spirits of the land, their staffs crackling with power as they channel the fury of the storms. In battle, they are both sages and warriors, guiding the White Scars to victory while honoring the primal forces that course through their veins. Man, yeah, I'm liking this legion. Emchi. The Emchi are the healers and guardians of life. the White Scars apothecaries, entrusted with the sacred task of tending to their brothers in battle. They are not mere caretakers, they are warriors in their own right, capable of wielding the power of life and death with the same fury they unleash upon their enemies. Their hands are steady, their minds sharp, but their loyalty is absolute. Every wound healed is a debt repaid to the Khan. Sagyar Mazan. The Sagyar Mazan walk the path of the exiled, branded by their failures and cast out to seek an honorable death. On Chogoris, justice is absolute, and those who falter in duty are not afforded mercy, unless their fate is softened by a leader's compassion. The Sagyar Mazan must live with their dishonor, a shadow they cannot outrun, until they find redemption in battle. It is only through death, earned by their own hands in the fires of combat, that they can cleanse themselves of the stain they carry.
Those guys are so cool. It's like Ronin for samurai almost. But maybe Ronin is so much about dishonor, but just like somebody who walks a different path now. And yeah, I can imagine these guys walk very often as a way to kind of fulfill that death pledge, essentially. Death redemption.
Yeah, the first ones were those traitor White Scars who rebelled against Jaghatai Khan. So that's kind of where that tradition comes from.
Yeah, and like out of something pretty serious. Like I don't know if this is necessarily like, well, you lost this battle in kind of in a way, you know. I don't think it's just like that. I think it's like you've done something as a slight against your character. You gave somebody safe quarter and then you turned your word on them and you killed them. Stuff like that, I think, would be like really important.
Yeah. Or yeah. I had a thought and it disappeared as quickly as a White Scar, so I
get back here, you. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the chapter armory. It's kind of a cool little area. We'll get into it. Like, you know, the White Scars have a lot of vehicles, so it's this cool kind of like biker mechanic shop, essentially. I can picture it now. I rode motorbikes, so I have a very clear picture of everyone just rolling their motorbike up in front of somebody's house. You know, they're fixing a bike inside the couple guys are revving their engine on the side of the road. So this is kind of the White Scars version of that. Carved into the heart of the treacherous, rugged Kum Karta Mountains, the White Scars armory is a sprawling labyrinth of fire, steel, and stone. It stands as a testament to the chapter's relentless pursuit of battle, housing a staggering array of tanks, war machines, and lightning-fast reconnaissance vehicles. The master of the forge rules over this realm of industry, a mechanical warlord who commands an army of tech priests, servitors, and cybernetic minions. Here, within the armory's deep recesses, every weapon is forged with purpose and every vehicle readied for the hunt. The ground trembles as colossal cranes and grappling claws twist and turn in the forge-lit shadows, maintaining the deadly arsenal that allows the Khan's sons to hunt their prey across the star. Below the great halls of Kwaozao, the armory sprawls through kilometers of interconnected workshops and repair bays. The air hums with the hiss of furnaces and the grind of machines. As levies rush through molten clouds, delivering supplies to keep the White Scars war machines roaring. Armor is welded, fuel lines are replaced, and the mighty repulsor grav tanks are restored. All the while, the mountain outside are lashed by the biting winds and that carry the scent of impending battle. The work is unrelenting, but the warriors of the White Scars know no other way. The walls of the armory are open to the sky, where atmospheric strike craft and dropships arrive without hesitation, seeking shelter in the vast cavernous opening of the mountain. The striking power of the chapter is never far from the front lines. Beneath the surface, however, lying a cunning macro tunnels, subterranean speedways that allow the White Scars to maneuver their forces undetected, emerging from hidden passages to strike at their enemies' flanks. It is here that the true mastery of the White Scars war machine comes into play, a constant dance of speed and precision with every inch of terrain and weapon in their hands. Techmarines stand as the wardens of this sacred space, commanding servitors and logic engines with unwavering authority. Under the watchful eyes, the machines of war are crafted, maintained, and prepared for the next brutal campaign. The Masters of the Forge, Kamkar, is a legend in his own right, having served for nearly a century in the unforgiving halls of the Armory with his personal transport, the Razorback Thyrisen. Kamakar brings his deadly work to the battlefield, riding into the combat alongside. Yeah, I think that's actually 40k stuff, so I'm going to skip over that guy. Save it maybe for another episode like tomorrow's one. Yeah, so that's that kind of cool area. Like, it's just this yeah, it's just a biker's bar, man. People are fixing their motorbikes. People are getting drinks on the side. There's a bar fight going over there. It's just a rowdy time, man.
Yeah, it serves too as like a cultural touchstone, like a place where people can gather, which is cool. It's fitting for them. Just
White
go ahead.
White Scars are known too to like tweak their vehicles and stuff too. Like their void ships, their engines are fitted with what we were joking around with nitrous to allow them to go faster. So, even their jet bikes, I can see them, doing their custom little decals and talking about their fancy new exhaust that they put on their motorbike. Like,
yeah, it's very personalized.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And they want to share it too. And the other people there, like you said, it's that cultural hub where they're all there to like, motorbike people. They're fucking crazy. All they want to do is talk motorbikes.
Yeah. They have no other interests, no other hobbies.
Yeah.
The Looper call in the chat says, kind of speaking back to when we mentioned the captain/can role. He says, think of a combination of captain mixed with tribal leader sort of thing. They take the role of a captain, but have the connections you'd expect from a tribal chief. And then he also said, when we're talking about the group that are kind of like punished, forget what they were called, the Merzan, Magyar Mazan, or things like trying to manipulate a Khan to seek personal glory over the Legion. So,
yeah, like it's a dishonorable thing. Now, like losing in battle, while it's dishonorable, it's not character dishonorable. What they're kind of looking for that thing.
It's not a betrayal.
Yeah.
I mean, the first ones were. They literally betrayed Jaghatai. But yeah, I can't speak to after that. Just know that. All right, let's get into their war gear. The Guandao. A signature weapon of the White Scars, the Guandao is a Chogorian glaive, a power lance. Considered blessed weapons, Guandao possess a 2-meter-long metal shaft with a single-edged, curved blade, which is primarily used by White Scars Astartes to extend their reach or to increase angular momentum and thus striking power when the weapon is swung. This makes the Guandao ideal for charging from the back of vehicles or striking at foes while beyond the reach of other weapons. When used in a close combat on foot, its purpose is more to disarm an opponent and deflect their strikes. The dueling tulwar. The tulwar is a weapon born of the Chogoris' ancient tradition. It is as much a symbol of the White Scars' heritage as it is a tool of battle. Curved and deadly, these blades are forged from the adamantine or even imbued with power fields, designed for swift, relentless strikes in duels or warfare. The ritual of dueling runs deep within the tribe's blood, an art passed down to the Astartes, where every clash serves not just to resolve disputes, but to sharpen the edge of a warrior's skill. Wielded with the speed that rivals lightning, the tulwar shifts seamlessly between defense and lethal offense, ensuring that the Khan and his legions always remain the storm, striking with the precision and fury of their ancestors. In battle, it is both a weapon of choice and a mark of identity, carried in anticipation of the inevitable close quarters combat that no White Scars ever shies from. So yeah, just kind of signature war gear. You kind of see a lot of their models carrying these Guandao and Tulwars, which are just like sabers, pretty much.
I do love that they have their own personal weapon that they've made, or not made, like that is cultural to them that they've made into power weapons. Because this was like a black powder kind of planet, so it come from there originally. It was like, yeah, introduced. They're like, we need this weapon. Somebody needs to make this style for us, please.
Yeah, kind of funny how they would ask for that too. They just like bring a bunch of like actual old real Guandaos and be like, can you turn this into a power weapon, please?
All right, the Shamshir pattern jet bike. It was an anti-gravitic Imperial jet bike used by the ancient White Scars, Legion's heavy assault jet bike squads, known as the Golden Keshik. The Shamshir was a rare variant of the Scimitar jet bike, employed by the White Scars Legion for its increased speed and maneuverability. Production of this variant jet bike was limited to small Mechanicum enclaves established in the Kolame Circle and maintained by ancient treaty with the White Scars and their enigmatic Primarch Jaghatai Khan. The Sojutsu pattern void bike. In an early prototype Imperial jet bike that predates the more common Scimitar jet bike, in common use with the Legions Astartes during the Great Crusades and Horus Heresy eras. During initial trials, its thrusters were capable of providing sufficient thrust to grant the bike limited periods of true flight, and even some maneuverability in deep space, and it was classed by the Logisticae Imperialis as an ultralight fighter craft instead of a jet bike. The Sojutsu Void Bike was the favored mount of the White Scars Legion's Primarch, Jaghatai Khan.
I love that. It's fucking labeled as an ultra fighter craft instead of a jet bike. I was kind of picturing when we were talking about Stormbirds and Thunderhawks earlier about, yeah, these void crafts coming down. I wonder if they're like atmospheric. What do they call it when you come from the void of space and go through the atmosphere, and then like, they can become they're dual, not just one or the other.
Yeah, like they're rated to go through the atmosphere and not burn up or blow up. Yeah, I don't know if they must be, because I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I just picture Jaghatai like just flying away on his bike into space. Like,
yeah.
What's that? What's that meme? Freaking Skeletor when he like runs off. You just kind of like get like some advice from Jaghatai Khan, and then he just like jets off into space, like a rainbow trailing from behind his bike.
Yay!
Until next time, like an 80s cartoon.
So muscular.
Yeah, he's shirtless too. Perfect.
They have a cool type of ammunition called Storm Wrath bolts, and these are fashioned according to the ancient designs of the Kogorian artificers and intended for the use in hunting the macro predators of the Katra Mountains. Those predators, I believe, were like some type of bird, by the way, some type of giant like hawk type thing or something. These acid-etched bolt shells contain the secret alchemical propellant formula. Their explosive cores are laced with fulgurite that strike like caged lightning within the target. That's fucking cool. So like they shoot it and then it literally shoots off fucking lightning in their rib cage if they don't explode already from the bolt.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Are they fieldable on the tabletop?
No, that I feel like came from the Death Watch RPG.
Okay.
But I could be wrong about that one for sure.
Definitely sleeping on it if it's not available on tabletop.
Yeah. And not the final piece of war gear that they have, but the final one that I've chose is the Cyber Eagle. And the Cyber Eagle are unique pieces of war gear utilized by the White Scar, serving both as a symbol of the Legion's connection to the wild and as practical tools for reconnaissance and communication. These cybernetic birds are equipped with advanced sensors that are often used by White Scar commanders to scout enemy positions, relay vital information, and even deliver precise strikes with razor-sharp talons. Each cyber eagle is meticulously crafted, combining the White Scar's reverence for nature with their technological prowess, and they are often seen accompanying the Legion's leaders in battle. These birds' presence on the battlefield is a reminder of the Legion's nomadic heritage and their affinity for using speed and cunning, as well as the bond they share with the natural world, even while adapting to the harsh realities of war. And like falconry is like a fun skill just in and of itself. So teaching your robot bird stuff, extra cool.
Yeah, it was also obviously a very big Mongol tradition. Like I guess I should say, Mongolian tradition, but dates back to Genghis Khan, the Golden Horde. So obviously, once again, those very subtle ties.
Yeah.
Corsaro Ken, notably, his model has a cyber eagle.
Yeah,
it's funny they use eagles, but it's still called falconry because you can also use falcons, but I think Mongolians use eagles.
Well, la-di-da for them and their birds. Yeah, I like it. Like Jordan said, man, they got a lot of cool stuff going on, like from their rugged individuality to kind of, their events in the Horus Heresy where half their legion kind of falls, and then they also then carry the weight of the battle during the Siege of Terra. Like lots of cool stuff.
Yeah,
jet bikes.
Yeah, definitely a legion and chapter that's getting slept on. I think.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, the 4 people that listen to this podcast now know about them. I'll tell you what. And here, live from the chat, we got Jax to tell you about it. Yo, Jax, how do you feel about the White Scars?
As Christian said, they're one of the most underrated, I gotta say.
Yeah. And that's the best part about this army too, is whenever you play, you can, like, when you drive into the game store to play your game, you play that song over and over. You play some Mongolian throat yelling music. You play that weird instrument, the yo one. Like, fuck yeah.
I feel like, okay, this is exactly how the White Scars were created. One guy just like showed up to GW on his bike, just like slammed down like, I want Mongolian Space Marines, and then he drank a bottle of whiskey and called it a day.
They never seen that man again. Some say he disappeared into some type of.
And that's where the legend of Jaghatai disappearing. Yeah.
Yeah,
but for sure, White Scars, like even in 30K, they're just like, I wasn't a fan of White Scars, but now I am. I just read like a Siege of Terra book, and in it there was this Jubal Khan, right? Like he was like the Yagatais top man. He lays a trap for Abaddon in his ship, and basically as soon as Abaddon enters, he calls him a bitch, presses a button, and the ship just starts to explode and like falls straight to Terra. So as he's and while this is going on, he somehow like manipulates gravity. It like jumps around Abaddon, killing all his Terminators. And it's like this really cool scene where like the White Scars don't mess around with them. And then at the end of the chapter, just Abaddon kills him and it's never talked about again. That's the level of love the White Scars get.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, they've had a couple of their own supplemental codexes over the year and stuff, and some novels, but yeah, it definitely is one of the underplayed ones. I wonder if it's just because they are tied with the codex essentially, which makes them white ultramarines or whatever. Whether they're not like the Blood Angels, the Space Wolves, and there's a couple other ones that like get their own codex, like they have special units and like they have gene seed plagues and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, the more divergent they get, the more likely they seem to have their own rule book, which kind of makes sense, but still. Yeah,
White Scars, they're so underrated.
Yeah. The question for you, Jax, what do you think would happen if the Khan and the White Scars chose Horus's side?
Nothing would change.
Really?
I mean, it'd suck for the Siege of Terra defenders, but let's be real here. They're White Scars. Like, come on. Like, they pissed off Mortarion that one time. That's pretty much it. Like, of course, they did have their moments. Like I just mentioned, the Jubal Khan, like jumping around in a falling ship, slicing up some Terminators. But yeah, just like the Khan, like so little is done with his character. Like he's developed his GW develops his culture, his backstory, the story of Kagoras. But in the end, they're just speedy boys on bikes.
So
Um,
complicated
I
yet
think
so
like
simple.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I
think with
think
the
if they would
extra
have fallen, it would have changed the whole thing. Like, you take away one legion from Terra defending it, that has to do something. And then just imagine if they were fighting on the other side, not just taken away, but actually now fighting. Like, that would have definitely been enough to turn the fate, turn the tide.
But are you
well, I
saying
guess
that? Go
um
ahead, Jax.
oh sorry, but I was just gonna say like I guess like if you were gonna swap out the White Scars, that extra 100,000 Marines, that would do something.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna.
that would be a 10v8. Like
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you just switching sides with one, or are you swapping one legion for one legion? Because
No, just literally they decide to join Horus, and now it's
fun fact, but a contingent of White Scars did join Horus during the Horus Heresy. And how many of you guys knew that? Like without like
all of us, we are the lore masters after all. Even when we don't know, we do know. We're just not
fair
willing to
enough,
share.
but yeah, like the first time like I read that piece of lore, like White Scars fell to Horus, like, oh no, nobody cares because it doesn't matter.
Hey, black scars are cool, and I want to do them. Okay.
Yeah. I think that would actually be like an interesting question though. Like Khan joins Horus, but who would join the Emperor in that case from the Traitor Legion? Like if you swap that whole dilemma, that would just be I mean, you could like talk for hours. Like, what if Mortarion stayed loyal, huh? What if instead of the Khan on Terra, it was Mortarion on Terra who was loyal?
Yeah, I just feel like with the Khan, like he's the one that could have gone either way. Not many could have. I feel like most were pretty obvious or set in stone, or like, um, and even just like with the Khan appearing so late in the whole situation, it just makes him that rogue element so much more different. But
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts before we kick you and get the next guy?
Gotta like the White Scars. I mean, underrated. The Cracker Scars. They're cool and all, but can't wait for my curse.
I don't even
All right.
want to say my version of the traitor ones if the Cracker Scars are one thing. Anyways, bye Jax, you'll get me in trouble if I carry that on. Fuzz, I'm trying to read your name, Jaghatai Khan.
Yeah, I was like, I'll go and try and do some clever name. So I was like, Jaghatai Khan.
Jaghatai Khan. Yeah,
how's it going, everybody?
Like a candy, but yeah, going good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Definitely really enjoyed all of like the Khan and the White Scars stuff so far. I really have enjoyed how they have just this excellent mixture of their military culture, but then their actual like culture and history as a people, and that they've blended that really well. I think it was Christian who was talking about, like the salamanders are one that is, often talked about as like a for the people group. And, we've got all of these other legions that do have their own unique cultures, but it's more of like a military culture that they have. With all of their uniqueness that we talk about, whereas with like the White Scars, we've been getting all of this culture, like going back through the history of Chagoras.
Yeah, like even like choosing names and choosing legends and stuff. Like they usually will choose names and legends from thousands of years ago. Like it all ties back to the planet.
Yeah, no, and I had been thinking about this, like how closer to the beginning of the episode when you guys were talking about like sort of the coincidences between the Primarch's shtick and the like the worlds that they get sent to and the way their legions were developed and how sometimes those have that not like synchronicity, coincidence, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I just kind of in my mind when the like talking about how like the people that they were drawn from Terra were these like nomads and these huge crawlers, and almost like the White Scars are an evolution of that. So you have these nomads and these slow like crawling machines. It almost like gave me a big like Star Wars vibe. And then the Emperor sees that and takes them and it's like, okay, but now you're gonna go fast. You're still gonna be nomads, but let's amp it up to like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking like massive Jawa Sandcrawler equivalents.
The Sandcrawlers, or I can't remember what the name of the building is, but the one that Lando Calrissian runs, that's like a slow crawler built on the back of like 16 AT-ATs.
Huh. That's fucking cool. I gotta look at a picture of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's all just super cool. And then I loved it at the very end. I was wondering if somehow falconry was going to get thrown into the mix as well. And then they have, these like eagle drones or whatever. Like, that's just so fucking cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like they're so cool that their whole look, with fur capes and holding eagles and stuff, leather gloves over their power armor. It's fun look.
Yeah, like the aesthetics and the culture and like their personalities too. It's almost like they're sort of like a weird pile of contradictions that work, because they're all oftentimes personified as just want to go fast, and you might associate that with like impulsiveness and recklessness, but then they have this extreme like calm level-headedness to them, especially with Jaghatai Khan, and then like that patience going into swift action to whatever that choice is that he makes or that the White Scars make, or like I mentioned, with the Codex Astartes, them adhering to it when you might not think they would, but it does allow them to be like a unified force while still operating in these like small independent war brands like they were in when the Khan found them.
Yeah. I like what you said there about like they're just a bag of contradictions. And you talked a little bit about like, yeah, okay, so they're intelligent. And yeah, most people when they look at the White Scars and the sons of or the sons of Fenris, the space wolves there, they think they'd get along, but really they don't. It's another one of those contradictions, but it's like, but you guys you're both wearing wolf teeth. Like I can literally see it. Like, but yeah, no, there's that another layer there to them.
Yeah, they've just been super cool to learn about, and the Khan, and yeah, just like how honorable they are, and like like they waited to make that decision because the Khan wanted to make sure it was the right one, but now they're all in.
Yeah. What do you think about kind of the concept of like the planet Torgeras kind of being alive, having its own kind of warp presence, and then that kind of bleeding into the people, not just on like a cultural and traditional level, but like on an actual spiritual level?
Yeah, I think that's a really neat idea. I remember you had talked about like those special staves that the sages get or the seers get that are made from like the wood of the trees on Shagoras. And it had brought to my mind the idea of like ley lines. And I wasn't sure if there had ever been anything in the lore that there's any sort of like warp ley lines. I believe there are some like warp nexus planets, but this is almost It's almost like this, like almost like a warp nexus, but in a healthy way, I guess is the best way I could describe it. Where like the planet is taking this warp energy, but it is channeling it through nature, which is an inherently chaotic force, and turning it into something usable for the people.
Yeah. Just a little spark of energy when they need it or something, or even just like a reinforcement of idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, I don't know if they're ever going to do anything with it, like have other, warp, I know warp aligned planets. That's not quite the right term, but let's say
Yeah.
warp nexus planets. I feel like wasn't there a planet where the people? I could be mixing this up with something else from all of the different things I've listened to. No, sorry, I'm mixing this up with something actually from the Star Wars podcast. Never mind.
Okay. All right. Well,
That shitty podcast. Who would look for
But-
You're thinking of Force Nexus planets.
Exactly. Honestly, yeah. Like there's one of the species where like when they are near their planet, they have like prophetic abilities. But I think that would be a really interesting thing to have in 40K as well if they don't already have it. Like when this Xeno species is on its planet, it is able to manifest these powers because the planet itself maybe is formed on like a thin barrier between real space and the warp. And so like it mutated, there's this evolution that happened because not enough warp energy bled into like make them truly chaos, but just enough to like, kind of, I guess, speed up evolution and mutations a little bit.
Yeah, and unlock some kind of warp capability. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe something like that, is on Chigoris, with the trees and with the seers and everything. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep our eyes out as we go through all the kind of legions and chapters. If we kind of pick up that spirit of the planet in other ones.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the Dark Angels as well. Just like how there was like a huge war presence on that planet as well.
Yeah, except that one did not seem helpful.
No, that one was not helpful at all.
Yeah, it's like positive.
Now I'm getting World of Warcraft, like Azeroth, a planet being vibes now.
Oh, don't get me.
I can't go down this path.
I say, I will. If you ever want to talk Warcraft lore, hit me up on the Discord or something, and I will talk to you forever about it.
Very cool. Well, yeah, that's that. Cool. Thanks, Jaghatai Khan.
Absolutely, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Yeah, you too, man. Adios.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we rounded up another nice little one. We still have one more White Scars episode to do in 40K in their chapter version, so it's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be next Tuesday. But yeah, a lot of fun. I can't believe we won over Jordan at the beginning of this episode before the show and the pre-show. He was talking about buying minis. He's like, yeah, I might buy some Eldar, but now we know it might also be White Scars. So
one thing at a time.
Yeah. Your phone's going to be blown up with just me and Christian sending you links to minis. So be prepared for that tonight.
I will be all over Merlin's miniatures using the promo code Lorehammer.
Yes, you will. Good boy. And also come check out the Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast. A lot of fun. Homebrew lore. When Jordan writes up his lore for his White Scars, we'll read it off on there. So
Absolutely.
And we'll mock it incessantly.
Yes, we will. As is tradition of the Lorehammer podcast culture.
Yeah. And as Fuzz gave us an excellent shout out, the Star Wars podcast. So if you like Star Wars and the deep lore of Star Wars, come listen to me and Jordan wax poetic about the Force and lightsabers and whatever catches our fancy in the Star Wars universe. It's as big and as deep as 40K. Maybe not as deep, but definitely as big.
Cool. And final little bit, we had new Patreon member STC77. So thank you so much for donating.
And now we have to donate him to the Mechanicum.
Yeah, exactly. Hand him right over. Yeah. If you guys want to donate, it's always super welcome. If you've listened to this episode and you're this far in, come on, just throw us a buck. It doesn't hurt that much. You're gonna It's like a scientific study. When you help other people and you bless other people, you feel better about yourself. So I am actually doing this for you. I'm taking your money for your benefit. So always remember that. Join the Lorehammer Patreon. And yeah, we'll see you all on the next White Scar episode.